There is a pain so sharp, so personal, that it changes the way you see people forever. Not failure. Not rejection. Betrayal. Because failure hurts your plans. But betrayal hurts your trust. And the most dangerous betrayals never come from enemies. They come from people you opened the door for. People you defended. People you loved. People you never imagined would become the lesson. Have you ever noticed that strangers rarely destroy us emotionally? It's usually someone close. Someone who knew your soft spots. Your kindness. Your loyalty. Your dreams. And somehow, they use that closeness against you. That pain is different. It doesn't just break the heart. It confuses the mind. You replay conversations. Moments. Warnings you ignored. You ask yourself, how did I not see it? How could they do this to me? Was any of it real? And slowly, betrayal changes you. Sometimes for the worse. Some people become cold. Suspicious. Emotionally unavailable. They stop trusting. Stop loving. Stop opening up. Because betrayal taught them fear. But Stoicism teaches something deeper. Something harder. Something powerful. That betrayal, if understood correctly, can become a gift. Not because betrayal is good, but because pain reveals truths comfort hides. And tonight, we're going to talk about the hidden gift wrapped inside betrayal. The wisdom hidden inside heartbreak. The strength hidden inside disappointment. The awakening hidden inside loss. Because sometimes, the people who hurt you most also reveal the path that saves you. And if you've ever been betrayed, lied to, abandoned, manipulated, or emotionally broken by someone you trusted, subscribe to the Stoic Path. Because this channel is for people rebuilding themselves in silence. People turning pain into discipline. People becoming stronger, not bitter. Now listen carefully. There was once a man who trusted his closest friend with everything. Business. Secrets. Dreams. Years of loyalty. Years of brotherhood. And one day, that friend stole from him. Lied about him. Destroyed his reputation. The betrayal shattered him. For months he isolated himself. He stopped trusting people. Stopped believing in loyalty. And one night, sitting alone, he whispered, I gave him my trust. And he destroyed me. But an old mentor later told him something he never forgot. He said, no. He revealed what you were blind to. That sentence changed his life. Because betrayal often reveals truths we refuse to see. Not always about others. Sometimes about ourselves. Our lack of boundaries. Our need for validation. Our fear of being alone. Our habit of ignoring red flags just to keep people close. Painful truth. But truth nonetheless. Sometimes betrayal is life's brutal way of removing illusions. And illusions are dangerous. Because illusions keep people asleep. A Stoic understands. Not everyone who smiles at you is for you. Not everyone close to you values you. Not everyone loyal in good times remains loyal in hard times. And betrayal exposes that reality. There is a story of a king betrayed by one of his most trusted advisors. The king was devastated. He wanted revenge. Punishment. Justice. But an old philosopher told him, your enemy did not destroy you. He revealed the weakness in your kingdom. That is how Stoics think. Pain becomes information. Not just suffering. And information creates wisdom. Think about your own life. How many times did betrayal force growth? Force awareness? Force strength? Maybe before betrayal, you were too trusting, too available, too dependent, too naive. Maybe betrayal forced you to finally value yourself. Maybe it forced you to stop chasing approval. Maybe it forced you to stop begging people to stay. That is the hidden gift. Not the pain. The awakening. Because some lessons only enter through heartbreak. And some people only discover their strength after being abandoned. A young woman once gave everything to a relationship. Her loyalty. Her time. Her energy. She ignored disrespect. Ignored dishonesty. Ignored her intuition. Because she feared losing the person. And eventually, he betrayed her. Completely. She cried for months. Questioned her worth. Felt broken. But years later, she admitted something shocking. She said, "That betrayal saved me from wasting my life." Powerful. Because what broke her heart also broke her illusion. And broken illusions create clarity. Listen carefully. Not everyone you lose is a loss. Some people leave your life because they were blocking your growth. And betrayal often removes people comfort would have kept around forever. That's why pain can become protection. The Stoics believed something difficult. You cannot control the actions of others. Only your response. That means betrayal is not the end of your power. Your response determines whether betrayal poisons you or strengthens you. And many people make the mistake of allowing betrayal to harden their soul. They become cruel, cold, bitter, emotionally numb. But bitterness is not strength. It is unresolved pain. True strength is remaining wise without becoming toxic. That is Stoic power. Not pretending pain doesn't exist. But refusing to let pain corrupt your character. There was once a warrior betrayed during battle. Left behind by his own men. He survived. Barely. Years later someone asked him, "How did you trust again after that?" He replied, "I became wiser. Not colder." That is maturity. Wounds should sharpen your awareness. Not poison your heart. And understand this. Betrayal teaches observation. After betrayal, you notice energy differently. Effort differently. Intentions differently. You stop listening only to words. And start watching actions. That lesson alone is priceless. Because words can perform. Actions reveal. A manipulative person can say, "I love you." A selfish person can say, "I care." A dishonest person can say, "Trust me." But actions eventually expose truth. And betrayal teaches you to study consistency. Not charm. Consistency. Because consistency reveals character. There is another hidden gift inside betrayal. Independence. Before betrayal, many people lean too heavily on others for happiness. Validation. Identity. Security. And when betrayal happens, they are forced to stand alone. At first it feels unbearable. Lonely. Dark. But slowly, they discover something powerful. Their strength. Their resilience. Their ability to survive what they thought would destroy them. And that changes a person forever. A bird learns its wings during the fall. Not while sitting safely in the nest. Pain reveals capacity. And betrayal often reveals emotional strength you never knew existed. Part 2 will go even deeper into why betrayal destroys illusions. The danger of revenge. The story of the snake and the monk. How betrayal teaches emotional discipline. Why some people were only meant to be lessons. Turning heartbreak into power. Becoming untouchable. Let's continue. Because betrayal does something dangerous to the human heart. It makes people want revenge. Not healing. Not peace. Revenge. The mind starts creating imaginary conversations. Arguments. Punishments. Ways to make the other person suffer. And for a moment, revenge feels powerful. But Stoics understood something most people learn too late. Revenge keeps you emotionally connected to the person who hurt you. And that connection becomes another prison. A man once carried hatred for years after being betrayed by his business partner. Years. Every morning he woke up angry. Every conversation returned to the betrayal. Every success felt empty because bitterness lived inside him. One day an old monk asked him, "Why are you still carrying a man who already left your life?" That question shattered him. Because he realized something painful. The betrayal lasted one moment. But his bitterness had lasted years. Do not let betrayal rent space in your soul forever. Yes, learn from it. But do not become it. Because pain has two paths. One leads to wisdom. The other leads to poison. Choose carefully. There is an old story about a monk and a snake. A poisonous snake terrorized a village. Everyone feared it. One day, a monk approached the snake calmly and said, "You do not need to bite everyone to protect yourself." The snake listened. Months later, the monk returned and found the snake injured and weak. The villagers had beaten it badly. The snake cried, "You told me not to bite." The monk replied, "I told you not to bite. I never told you not to hiss." Powerful lesson. Stoicism does not mean weakness. It means controlled strength. After betrayal, some people become too soft. Too forgiving. Too available again. And they repeat the same pain. No. Learn boundaries. Learn discernment. Learn distance. You do not need revenge. But you do need wisdom. Not everyone deserves access to you after they betray you. Forgiveness does not always mean reconnection. Read that again. Some doors must remain closed for peace to survive. And here is another hidden truth. Betrayal reveals emotional dependency. Many people don't just love others. They emotionally depend on them. Depend on their attention. Their approval. Their presence. And when betrayal happens, their identity collapses. Why? Because they built themselves around another person. That is dangerous. A Stoic builds inner stability. Not emotional addiction. Because people change. Feelings change. Loyalty changes. But your relationship with yourself must remain strong. There was once a young man abandoned by the woman he loved deeply. He stopped eating. Stopped working. Stopped caring about life. His mentor finally asked him, "Did you lose her? Or did you lose yourself inside her?" Silence. Because that was the real wound. He had abandoned himself long before she abandoned him. And many people do the same. They sacrifice peace to keep people. Standards to keep people. Dignity to keep people. Until betrayal finally forces them to wake up. Sometimes betrayal is the alarm clock self-respect needed. Painful. But necessary. And understand this carefully. Some people enter your life only as lessons. Not forever. Lessons. The problem is, people often confuse temporary people for permanent people. And when temporary people leave, they feel shocked. But not everyone is meant to stay. Some people are chapters. Not the whole story. A traveler once met a stranger during a storm. The stranger helped him survive the night. But when morning came, they separated. The traveler cried because he wanted the stranger to continue the journey with him. But the stranger smiled and said, "I was only meant to help you through the storm." That is life. Some people are only meant to teach you something. Strength. Boundaries. Awareness. Self-worth. And once the lesson is complete, they leave. Do not destroy yourself trying to hold on to expired connections. Because expired connections poison peace. Now let's speak about trust. After betrayal, many people say, "I'll never trust again." But that is fear speaking. The answer is not to stop trusting. The answer is to trust wisely. Trust slowly. Trust actions more than words. Trust consistency more than charm. Because betrayal sharpens perception. It teaches patience. You stop rushing intimacy. Stop forcing connection. Stop ignoring intuition. That is growth. A wise woman once said, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time." Simple. But life-changing. People often reveal themselves early. The selfishness. The manipulation. The dishonesty. But loneliness makes people ignore truth. Be careful of loneliness. Loneliness can make red flags look like love. That is why inner peace matters. When you are emotionally desperate, you tolerate what you should reject. But when you value yourself, your standards rise. And standards protect peace. Now hear this. The greatest revenge after betrayal is not destruction. It is transformation. Nothing confuses people more than watching someone they hurt become stronger, calmer, wiser, more disciplined. Not broken. There was once a woman betrayed publicly by people she trusted. They expected her to collapse, to beg, to fight. Instead, she disappeared quietly, worked on herself, healed herself, rebuilt her life. Years later, they saw her again. Peaceful, radiant, untouchable. And suddenly they understood. Her silence had been her power. That is stoic strength. Not loud revenge. Quiet evolution. Because true healing is not proving something to others. It is freeing yourself from the need to. And freedom changes energy. People can feel when someone no longer needs validation. That energy commands respect. Now understand this deeply. Betrayal teaches emotional discipline. Before pain, many people are emotionally impulsive. Quick attachment. Quick trust. Quick emotional investment. But betrayal slows you down. Makes you observe more carefully. Makes you protect your energy. And protection is wisdom. Not paranoia. Wisdom. A tree with deep roots survives storms. And betrayal deepens roots. Pain matures people. Not automatically. But if they choose reflection instead of bitterness. That is the difference. Some people suffer and become cruel. Others suffer and become wise. Choose wisely. And perhaps the greatest gift hidden inside betrayal is this. It forces you to meet yourself. Without distractions. Without illusions. Without dependency. Just you. And in that painful silence, many people finally discover who they truly are. Stronger than they imagined. Wiser than before. More aware. More disciplined. More awake. That is why Stoics never wasted suffering. They extracted wisdom from it. Because pain without wisdom becomes bitterness. But pain with wisdom becomes transformation. So if you have been betrayed, listen carefully. Do not let it harden your soul. Let it sharpen your vision. Do not let it make you bitter. Let it make you wiser. Do not let it destroy your ability to love. Let it destroy your tolerance for disrespect. And above all, do not lose yourself trying to understand why someone hurt you. Some people destroy what they were never mature enough to value. That is their limitation. Not your worth. If this message spoke to your heart, subscribe to the Stoic Path. Because here, we turn pain into power, betrayal into wisdom, and silence into strength. Remember, sometimes the most painful betrayal arrives carrying the greatest gift. Awakening. There is something betrayal does to a person that almost nobody talks about. It changes the way you see silence. Before betrayal, silence feels peaceful. After betrayal, silence can feel loud, heavy, filled with memories, questions, flashbacks. You replay conversations, moments, promises, and suddenly you begin noticing details you ignored before. The hesitation in their voice, the inconsistency in their actions, the moments your intuition whispered, something is wrong. But you stayed. Because the heart often sees what it wants, not what is true. And that is dangerous. A Stoic learns to separate emotion from observation. Because emotions can blind. But observation reveals. There was once a fisherman who ignored dark clouds because the ocean looked calm. Everyone warned him. But he said, "The water is peaceful." Hours later, the storm destroyed his boat. He judged the ocean by appearance, instead of signs. That is how many people choose relationships, friendships, partnerships. They ignore signs because they fear losing connection. And betrayal becomes the price of ignored intuition. Listen carefully. Red flags rarely arrive screaming. Most arrive whispering. Small dishonesty. Small disrespect. Small inconsistency. And people ignore it because they hope love will change truth. But hope without wisdom becomes self-destruction. A woman once stayed with someone who constantly disappeared emotionally. Cold one day. Warm the next. Present sometimes. Absent often. Her intuition knew. But her loneliness was louder than her wisdom. And eventually, betrayal arrived exactly where truth had been ignored. Painful. But important. Because betrayal often confirms what intuition already knew. That is why self-awareness matters. When you know yourself deeply, you stop betraying yourself for others. And that may be the deepest betrayal of all. Self-betrayal. Ignoring your boundaries. Ignoring your peace. Ignoring your standards. Just to keep someone close. Many people say, "They betrayed me." But secretly, they abandoned themselves first. That is why healing begins within. Not with revenge. Not with obsession. Within. There is a story of a man betrayed by his closest companion during war. Years later someone asked him, "What hurt most? The betrayal?" The man replied, "No. What hurt most was realizing how many times I betrayed my own instincts trying to trust him." That is wisdom. Hard wisdom. But wisdom nonetheless. Never ignore your inner voice for temporary comfort. Because your intuition often sees danger before your emotions do. Now let's speak about loneliness after betrayal. Because betrayal creates loneliness unlike any other pain. Not just physical loneliness. Emotional loneliness. You feel misunderstood. Disconnected. Guarded. You stop wanting to explain yourself. And sometimes, that isolation becomes dangerous. Because pain grows in silence when left unexamined. But Stoics viewed solitude differently. To them, solitude was not punishment. It was refinement. A place to think clearly. To rebuild. To understand yourself. There is a difference between isolation and solitude. Isolation destroys. Solitude restores. Isolation says, I am unwanted. Solitude says, I am reconnecting with myself. That mindset changes everything. A wounded eagle once flew away from the flock after being attacked. Not because it hated the sky, but because healing required distance. And many people need that too. Distance. From noise. From chaos. From people who reopen wounds they never helped heal. Do not fear temporary solitude. Some transformations require silence. And silence reveals truth. In silence, you discover what actually matters. Who actually matters. And perhaps most importantly, who you become when nobody is watching. That is powerful. Because betrayal strips away illusion. And when illusion dies, truth begins. Now hear this carefully. One betrayal should not make you suspicious of everyone. That is another trap. Pain likes to generalize. One liar hurts you. And suddenly everyone feels dishonest. One person abandons you. And suddenly you fear attachment itself. But wisdom understands balance. Not everyone is disloyal. Not everyone is manipulative. Not everyone is temporary. The goal is not paranoia. The goal is discernment. Learn the difference. Paranoia pushes everyone away. Discernment simply watches carefully. A wise man once said, trust is earned in drops and lost in buckets. Beautiful. Because real trust is built slowly. Through consistency. Through honesty. Through repeated action. And betrayal teaches patience in trust. No more rushing. No more blind attachment. No more emotional recklessness. That is growth. Now let's speak about something painful. Sometimes betrayal improves your life. Not immediately. At first it feels like destruction. Loss. Chaos. But years later, many people realize, if that betrayal never happened, they would have stayed stuck forever. A man once lost everything because his business partner betrayed him financially. He thought his life was over. But rebuilding forced him to become disciplined. Independent. Focused. Years later he admitted, that betrayal created the man I needed to become. Life is strange that way. Pain often introduces growth comfort never could. Comfort keeps people asleep. Pain wakes them up. That is why Stoics did not run from hardship. They extracted meaning from it. And meaning transforms suffering. Without meaning, pain becomes misery. With meaning, pain becomes fuel. So ask yourself, what has betrayal taught me? Not just about others. About me. My boundaries. My standards. My fears. My blind spots. My emotional patterns. Because betrayal is not only loss. It is information. And wise people study painful information carefully. Now understand something important. Healing after betrayal is not linear. Some days you feel free. Other days memories return unexpectedly. A song. A place. A sentence. And suddenly the wound feels fresh again. That is normal. Healing is not forgetting. Healing is remembering without emotional collapse. That takes time. Be patient with yourself. A broken bone heals slowly. So does trust. So does the heart. But it heals. And one day, you will speak about what broke you. Without breaking while speaking about it. That day is powerful. Because it means pain no longer owns you. And freedom begins there. Part 4 will go even deeper into why silence after betrayal is powerful. The danger of becoming emotionally cold. The Stoic art of letting go. How to rebuild trust in yourself. The story of the blacksmith and the fire. Turning emotional scars into wisdom. Becoming untouchable without losing your mind.